first things first. Are you a Republican? Donald Trump seems confused about it.
Well, the president seems to think that everybody has to lock into line and be his kind of Republican, a MAGA Republican. I'm not a MAGA Republican. I'm a free thinker, and I question authority. And I think all citizens, no matter who they are, should never accept the word of leaders, but should question authority when things don't seem to be right. You mentioned this love fest that they had at the White House on Friday, where clearly Zohran Mamdani spent 8 months calling Donald Trump a fascist. He's not a fascist. But then again, Donald Trump was calling Zohran Mamdani a communist. He's not a communist. So they're lobbing these rhetorical bombs back and forth. I refuse to get involved. I wanted to speak only about the issues. But naturally, when you can engage in name calling, it takes away from the desire to actually talk about the things that a mayor in New York City or a mayor in London or any other major municipal area in the world would have to do.
And on that meeting in the Oval Office, you said shortly after it, sorry, hang on, we're being played here. I'm quoting you now. We're all expected to just believe it's come by our my lord now, is it? Did that, I mean, it's amusing the way you put it, but did it really annoy you? Did it anger you, that kind of, which is it, combat or cooperation?
Yes, because it's divisive enough, as you know, when you look at the political scene. It's so partisan, it's so bitter. And here you had these two men continue to stir the pot, cast aspersions against one another. Some of my fellow Republicans attacking Zohran Mamdani's religion and culture. How ridiculous is that? I warned them, I said, don't attack his religion, don't attack his culture, stick to the issues. And then obviously Zohran Mamdani wanting to bump chests with Donald Trump all along the way, the most powerful man in the world who controls a lot of the money that we desperately need in New York City. But that was what I call the chicken dance. And this is what politicians do, the chicken dance. Meantime, you have all these followers on both sides who are all fired up, who are hateful, who seek revenge, who feel that it's the end of the world. And then we're expected to believe in a half-hour meeting and then a half-hour press conference that followed that everything was okay and back on track. No.
But isn't
they
that...
did a lot of damage. I think they owe an apology to all the people.
Oh, that's interesting you take it that far, because isn't it just a bit... Isn't this what politics is? Perhaps especially in America. There's that, look, I have to work with you. In campaign mode, I have to campaign in a particular way to beat you, not you personally, but whoever the opponent is. And now I've won. This is Mamdani. Now I've won. I've got to deal with the big guns, the biggest gun of all being the president. Isn't that all he's doing?
No, I don't engage in that kind of political, rhetorical firebombs.
Do you think it's unserious? Is that why?
I think it's unfair to the people. I think they treat the people like sheep, and they're the sheep herders. Don't worry, there's a method to my madness here. No. We have to start bringing people together. We are such a divided nation at so many levels, and now we'll be divided even further in New York City because of the 8 months that led up to this. Why not have an intellectual discussion where we actually talk about our differences ideologically about the issues that are going to affect average men and women? Now, Zohran Mamdani did an amazing job. He actually touched the nerve of what was pulsating through most New York City residents, regardless of their political affiliation: affordability, cost of living, something that Republicans, for the most part, have ignored. The president called that about 2 weeks ago fake news. Now he's done a pivot and shift. Now he says, oh, yeah, it's affordability, cost of living, because he's facing midterm elections. And I'm saying, let's just be honest with people. Most people are not political ideologues. They're just trying to get from day to day to be able to pay for what they need, take care of their families, and have a job. With the threat of artificial intelligence, driverless vehicles, with the whole weight of the world weighing down on working class people, they need to be protected and addressed. And I didn't see that come out of the White House at all on Friday.
Well, it's interesting listening to you, because in a funny way, it's like listening to Bernie Sanders. That you're both men who are saying, enough with the lobbying, enough with the drama, enough with the fake or real antipathy to one another. Focus on the people, focus on people's needs, get big business and lobbyists out of this. I mean, are you? I can't put anything between you and Bernie Sanders other than the title of your party.
Well, remember, my wife, Nancy, in 2016, she was a big Bernie Sanders supporter. I was not. But she went from voting for Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primary, which he ultimately lost, to voting for Donald Trump in the general election, which I did not do. There was a lot of crossover at that time. And I understand what you're saying. I just feel that there are such important issues that affect the United States. And remember, what affects us in the United States affects people throughout the world, that the president needs to focus on international issues, that local issues need to be focused on the people who are going to be directly impacted, and stop with the election interference. I believe one person, one vote. That's what our country was based on.
Not that's that one person,
not insiders.
That one person, one vote, you've said, is the central reason why you did not pull out, even when figures as powerful as Donald Trump and your own party essentially were urging you to do so, as a counterweight to Mamdani.
That's right. The masters of the universe, I call them. The most powerful man in the world, Donald Trump, and now apparently the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, soon to be a trillionaire. In the last 72 hours, $20 million was spent in a campaign. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing the advertisements. A vote for Sliwa is a vote for Mamdani. Now, that's ridiculous. I don't disrespect Zohran Mamdani. We've engaged in debate. But I am totally different politically than Zohran Mamdani. And what it was is that the powers to be didn't like the fact that I wouldn't dance to their piper. That meant they told me to drop out. And I said, what are you talking about? Democracy is not having candidates drop out. I believe in more parties, more candidates, more debate, and let the people make the decision.
And you were clearly this time around prepared to go under the Republican banner. Would you be prepared to go under the MAGA banner?
No, I'm not MAGA, although I have many people who obviously follow me who are MAGA.
Why aren't you MAGA?
Because there are a number of issues that I disagreed with Donald Trump over the years, both when he was a citizen and when he was the president the first time and when he's a president now. You can have a party, as you see in your own party structures there in Great Britain, in which you have a diversity of opinion. The Democrats have that now in the United States. They have moderate Democrats and they have Democrat socialists. Here in America, we cast aspersions against people who are called Democrat socialists. Are you kidding? We've had a history of Democrat socialists in the United States. You have that throughout Europe. Your Labor Party there consisted of a lot of socialist ideas. Ben-Gurion was a socialist leader of the birth of the state of Israel. So all this fear, fright, hysteria that has led to people immediately trying to put you in a box. Okay. I don't fear socialists. I don't fear Democrats. I think what we need is more forensic debate, more discussion of the issues. And one thing I do that the other politicos don't do, I trust the people. The people have spoken. They voted for Zohran Mamdani. He's entitled to a grace period. Let's see what he can do. But I'm not leaving. I'm not running. I always believe you improve, you don't move.
Well, the people also voted, didn't they, in the presidential election and voted in numbers and substantially for Donald Trump. I want to ask you another question related to MAGA because Donald Trump has had a recent, arguably a small d defeat on that Epstein vote and the MAGA movement's push to get that vote and to vote to release those files, something he obviously didn't want to happen. Does the movement die with the end of his political career, MAGA? Or are you seeing figures who will continue it into the Republican future?
It's really hard to know with the mercurial Donald Trump from one day to the next. Like, who would have ever thought there would have been a love fest at the White House with Zohran Mamdani? It depends on what side of the bed that Donald Trump has awoken on that day. You'll never know what direction he'll go. Now,
but beyond him.
Yes, I believe that elements of MAGA will remain because it is ingrained into the party. And that's good. That's why you have discussions internally in a party. And then we'll determine who the party leaders are. Now, will it be J.D. Vance, the reigning vice president? Will it be a Marco Rubio? Will it be one of the Trump sons? One never knows with the volatility of the American political system. But right now, I suggest to Donald Trump that he gets out from behind the desk at the White House and from having great Gatsby events at Mar-a-Lago with the rich and the famous and the well-to-do, and start traveling this country, as I do, because you're going to see a lot of Americans, whether they're Republicans, Democrats, or independent and autonomous, who are hurting. They don't have enough money. They can't afford the price of living in America, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. And I've challenged the president on this whole tariff scheme. I don't believe in tariffs. I think that's added to the inflation, and that's added on to the pressure of not only small businessmen and women, but also blue-collar working-class people who cannot make ends meet. If he doesn't do this, it's a very real danger that the Democrats will be in charge after the midterm elections.
And not just in America, the way you described the impact of the tariffs, it's been elsewhere as well, of course. I mentioned the Epstein files and that vote at the House Oversight Committee. I guess that was a sign of more political unity across the aisles in that vote. It was a pretty almost unanimous vote, except for one person voting against the release. How dangerous are these files to Trump, in your view? Perhaps hard to say till we've seen them all, but what's your sense of it? Could they hurt him politically, or worse, bring him down?
Oh, yes, they can. But then again, they can affect the rich, the powerful, and the well-to-do globally, as we've seen in your country and throughout the world. Look, this guy clearly, Epstein, had control over very powerful people. I think it is incumbent that everything be released, there be transparency. Again, I trust people to have this information. I question why the President, Donald Trump, was so slow to release this information when, in fact, he's the one who encouraged it, and many of his followers encouraged it, and I encouraged it because I felt that people had a right to know. And then all of a sudden put the brakes on it, then had tremendous problems internally within his own party about this issue. And now, hopefully, they won't be redacting information. That's the trick of the bureaucrats. Oh, we have to redact the information because it's too sensitive. We can't trust you, the people, to be able to handle this information. Nonsense. Let the public see everything and come to their own conclusions.
Okay. For people who might be looking at you as well as listening to you, they'll see you have this red, sort of burgundy red beret of the Guardian Angels, who used to operate on the streets and on the public transport in New York for people's safety. Let me ask you about people's safety in New York and wider America when it comes to those ICE arrests taking place, the immigration arrests. What's your position on those? Because we've had very powerful international figures like the Pope, like the American bishops, which, you know, is a very powerful group in America, Catholic bishops, saying this is a disgrace, it's against human dignity, there is a better way to be fair on immigration, and dignified about illegal immigrants as well. Where do you come down on that?
Well, I think we can bifurcate that situation. You're going through that in the UK, you're going through that in Europe, and we're going through that in the United States. If you are a criminal, if you have come to America, no matter how you got here, and you're committing crime, you're a gang member, you're a sex trafficker, you're a narco-terrorist, you fit any of those categories, then you should be subject to deportation. But everyone is entitled to the legal process, whether you are a citizen or a non-citizen. That's where I differ with many of the members of my party. But going after the people who are already here, who are working, who are part of our essential economy. I mean, I have 3 sons. They are not going to do a lot of the work that the migrants do. They are not going to work in the kitchens or the hospitality industry that Donald Trump is well familiar with, because that's what his family business is involved in. They're not going to pick the crops. They're not going to pack them in the factories. They're not going to work in the slaughterhouses. It's mostly migrants. They have become essential workers. You cannot threaten to deport them, because then who is going to do the needed work? Are we going to wait to Elon Musk to come up with artificial intelligence and robots to do all of this work? Please. We have to deal with the here and now. They have become essential workers. We have to figure out a pathway to eventual citizenship for them. Now, that's not necessarily an attitude that is well received by Republicans. But then again, I think, as you can see from this interview, I'm a different kind of Republican. They call me a rhino, Republican in name only.
And do you accept that?
Yes, I do, because I'm independent and autonomous. I'm a free thinker. I challenge authority. I grew up in the 60s, as many of your listeners did. The counterculture, we were told not to trust anybody over 30 and challenge authority. The counterculture then, we have a generational change now that has led to Zohran Mamdani and some of these future changes you will see in the political establishment. The millennials and the Gen Zers are the majority of the population. And I, as a baby boomer, and my fellow baby boomers have got to accept this, that they will be in charge, they will have the bulk of the vote, and they will determine the future of their countries and the future of the world.
So engage with them as well. Engage with them for that reason.
Of course, and I have a tremendous following of them with the social networking, because they don't find me to be oppressive or to be somebody who they have to treat as an uncle that they don't want to come over on holiday because he's a real curmudgeon.
Okay, you don't come across as a curmudgeon. One thing I know about you and your wife as well, you mentioned your wife, to finish on a softer point, is you love animals, particularly cats and dogs, and you really care for animals that have been abandoned or in danger in any way. Donald Trump was critical of the idea that if you became mayor, which isn't going to happen, but if you became mayor, you would use part of the land around the mayoral residence for abandoned cats and dogs that would have been put down otherwise. He was very critical of that. We heard a bit of what he was saying earlier. I mean, this is a man who tore down the East Wing, saying that about the New York mayoral mansion. What is it about cats and dogs? Where does that love for them come from in your case?
And that's my wife, Nancy, who, along with so many people around the world, they rescue dogs and cats and other animals in distress. I had to alert the president that he's sitting in the Oval Office with Zohran Mamdani, where over 100 years another Republican, Teddy Roosevelt, sat and had 80 animals, both inside and outside the White House. Remember what Mahatma Gandhi said: a society that does not take care of its animals does not take care of its people. If you were to come with me into the subways and streets of New York City now, you would see homeless men and women, emotionally disturbed men and women, incapable of controlling their mental and physical faculties, some of them veterans who have served our country, who are not being cared for. And it all stems from what Gandhi said: if you don't take care of animals, you will not take care of people. And if the president wants to make fun of me and my wife, and others want to make fun of us, good. We'll take as many dogs and cats and other animals as we can to give them decent lives. And if I would have been elected mayor, I would have turned every square inch of Gracie Mansion into a place where dogs and cats could live a decent life. Because what do people need that for? A mayor and his first lady, they're out and about. They're dealing with all the issues of the city. We need places where there are no-kill shelters, and we need to put animal abusers in jail. That was part of my campaign, and I think that's universal.